Well, good news, folks. Today is International Day of Happiness, and now is the perfect time to focus on de-stressing. So I'm joined by Dr. Emiliana Simon-Thomas from the Greater Good Science Center at the University of California, Berkeley. So let's start with that, Doc. Everybody's trying to de-stress and figure out how to be happy, but how do folks out there drop the stress and get happy? Make it simple for them.
All right, thanks Curtis. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. So on International Happiness Day, it's a perfect day to acknowledge and reflect on how critical our happiness is to our health and our well-being and our lifelong success. And in our partnership with LG Electronics on the LG Experience Happiness Initiative, we've identified 6 sustainable happiness skills. And by building and strengthening these skills, we can bring ourselves to a place where we actually can boost happiness and be more resilient to stress.
Question, I think obviously different age groups have different struggles with stress and happiness, but specifically for teens, teens is kind of a weird age going through trying to figure out. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, so right now more than ever, it's a really important time to offer teens the tools that they need to sort of cultivate a lifelong habit of happiness, to manage stress. One of the most promising ways for teens is to develop a greater sense of self-awareness. There are many, many different traditions and scientific principles that contribute to self-awareness. We call it mindfulness in some circles, but an easy practice is really just to take a deep and calming breath. Sometimes it helps to put your hand on your chest, breathe in very deeply, and breathe out more slowly than you're breathing in. Sometimes when I'm teaching this to young people, I'll say, imagine that you're blowing out a cake with lots of candles on it. You have to save your breath and make it come out slowly. Doing this engages physiological systems that are calming, that bring you into a mindset of safety and trust. And these are important parts of being willing to reach out to others for support, which is another important part of managing our stress responses. The last thing we want to do when we're feeling anxiety and stress is to be isolated or isolate ourselves. So again, a deep and calming breath can be a very powerful way to manage stress and pave the way for sustainable happiness.
Well, yeah, deep and calming breath. You hit on something that I'm big with, is meditation and yoga. So I think if we include more of that for everybody, that would be great across the board. Which leads me to my next question: is, all ages, all age range, some things that everybody can do to manage this.
Yeah, so another really promising scientific space is the science of gratitude. So for the past 20, 30 years, researchers have been looking at how important gratitude is to health and well-being and happiness. And it turns out that taking a little bit more time to reflect on what it is that's good in our life, so what's happening that brings us joy, that brings us a positive experience, and how are other people factoring into that goodness, and can we do a better job of actually acknowledging other people's contributions to the goodness in our life. And this may be just as simple as saying thank you, being descriptive when we say thank you for actually taking the time to talk about happiness today, Curtis. It's really meaningful to me to be able to share the expertise that I've dedicated to trying to understand and teach people how to be happier. This can be a very powerful way to build skills that lead to sustained happiness in teens, and as you identified, all ages. The more grateful we are, the happier we are, the more resilient we are, and the more connected we feel in our social relationships that are so important to our happiness.
I completely agree with you, Doc, and I got to say, of all the fields to choose to study or be involved as a doctor, I think you chose the right one, making people happier. So I appreciate you joining us.
I feel really lucky to do it, and the Greater Good Science Center is committed to trying to make the world a happier, more compassionate place, and we're lucky to partner with LG Electronics on this campaign.
All right, how can our viewers read more about the Greater Good Science Center?
You can read more about the Greater Good Science Center online, looking at greatergood.berkeley.edu, and to learn more about the Experience Happiness campaign, you can go to lgexperiencehappiness.com, and all of the materials for teachers to access to teach their teens and students about happiness skills are right there.
Very cool. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate you joining us, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Curtis. It was a pleasure talking with you, and you also enjoy your day, and I hope you discover more happiness in your own life.
And thanks to LG Electronics for bringing us that great information on International Day of Happiness.